Hello, fellow project fans. Have you ever faced the following questions? What is the best approach to project management? Traditional or agile? I'm sure you will. This discussion has been going on for several years after agile management started to become popular. Well, your problems are over. I have the answer and I tell you in this video. I'm sure you'll be surprised. I'm Rogério Manso and I'll help you to start projecting now. To answer what's the best approach to manage a project, we need to start defining what is the difference between traditional and agile. In fact, we don't call the right way to talk is predictive and adaptive projects. Predictive is the traditional way, what we call waterfall, and adaptive is the agile way. So let's start with the traditional project management. This model follows a sequential approach. So we start with a defined detailed plan. Then we move to design, build, test, and finally delivery. It's like building a house. Okay? You cannot start the construction without having a complete blueprint, a plan to know what you're gonna do, right? So in this case, you have here some phases or some moments in your project. For example, you have the initiation where you're gonna explore requirements, scope, risks, resources, and benefits. Then you start defining your plan. You create a project plan. You define the budget and the timeline and identify the main deliverables. When you have a detailed plan, then you go to execution. You're going to allocate resources, schedule tasks, and execute the project plan. Of course, when you're executing the project plan, you need to control and monitor the activities. So make sure that you have done activities and the performance of your project is aligned with your plan. And at the end, you deliver your project and the results, document your project and provide lessons learned. This is the way we work in a traditional way. For example, some examples of traditional project, we can see, for example, construction projects. So when we build a house or we build a multi-story building, this typically follows a sequence of events: design, procurement, construction, inspection. So each step needs to be completed before the next one can start. The second, another example, manufacturing projects, where you really need to define upfront all the structure, all the steps and all the requirements that you need to create this manufacturing system. Another example, infrastructure. So these examples of projects are projects that you cannot start without following some initial steps, initial phase, like having a detailed plan, an approval, or make sure that you have all resources, requirements, and the conditions to start your project. But when we call about agile, it's a little bit different. So let's understand a little bit agile project management. I put this photo here because I'm going to explain you why. Agile life cycle is an adaptive process. We need to understand that the way we deliver projects in an agile mode is a little bit different than we do in a traditional mode. Let's see why. Normally, in an agile project or a project that needs to be adaptive, we go by by increments. What is an increment? It's a small delivery. So we deliver something, we validate if this product or if this service is in accordance with our scope, and then we improve this delivery. So we have a process that we're gonna pass, going to the requirements, design, development, test, review, and then we're gonna deliver our increment. It's more or less similar to what we have in a traditional way. However, the difference is that as soon as we deliver something, this increment, this initial product is delivered, we start again our process to increase this product in the next delivery, in the next phase. So the idea here is that you're gonna create your product by increment, by evaluating if this product is providing value to your customer, okay? To work with Agile, we need to follow some principles, and we need to make sure that the environment, the culture, and the process that we are following in the organization adopt some values that are stated in the Agile Manifesto. Here we have 12 principles that we follow. For example, we need to have a customer focus, welcome change. So changes are welcome in our project. It's different from traditional. Traditional changes are not very welcome. So we need to define what we're gonna do, and we need to restrict the changes during the project. We need to deliver often, frequently, collaborative way with the team and stakeholders and user. We're gonna empower the team, making them auto-managed. We need to promote face-to-face communication. We need to measure progress. We need to keep a sustainable pace in terms of the deliverables. We need to strive by excellence. Also keep the products and the process simple. So Agile comes from the lean management. So we need to really make sure that our process and the way we work follow some lean principles and values. And we need to self-organize teams and reflect and adjust the results as we need. Okay, so as I said, when we talk about Agile, it's like sailing a boat at sea. So we know where we need to go, but maybe the route is not clear. Okay? We don't know exactly how to achieve this point. So we need to be able to be flexible, to change sometimes the route. When you are sailing in the sea, sometimes the weather changes, the winds change, so you need to adapt all the time based on the environment, in the moment that we have and the resources that we have. So Agile focus on the end goal while embracing change in requirements or market conditions. So even if you know your final objective, your final product, sometimes during the process that you are developing your project, you are delivering your project, you need to change the way and some requirements in your final project. If I have to compare traditional and Agile, I would say that, for example, a traditional way is like manage a traditional orchestra, and to manage an Agile is like using a small jazz band. Why? Because a traditional approach, when we see, for example, this orchestra, is not something that you can make some adaptations all the time. Okay? You cannot change all the time. You need to have really time to prepare, to test, to exercise, and to organize how each instrument will play. When you work in a jazz band, the improvise and adaptations, they can improvise and adapt as they play. So in a small jazz band, it's more agile, they are more flexible, they are more adaptable to the environment. You can, for example, ask this small group of jazz band to move from this place to another place and play in another place. But in a traditional orchestra, you cannot do this. You need to have a well-prepared environment. You need to prepare where all musicians will play. And you have to have an acoustic. You have to have some conditions to work. And what you're gonna play could not be something on improvised. You need to really test and exercise this music before many times. It's something that they know what to do. In a agile or jazz band, it's something that they can improvise. They can try to do something different every time. I have here a small table that shows some difference between traditional and agile. For example, in terms of the planning, a traditional project management, we have a detailed upfront planning. In agile, we are more flexible and adaptable in terms of what you're gonna plan. The execution, we have to follow sequential steps. And in agile, we move in iterative and incremental steps. In terms of the change management, we have, in traditional, we are resistant to change. Changes cost money as you move to the end of your project. In agile, we are always welcome change. We can change at the end of each iteration. We can be adaptable at the end of each iteration. In terms of decision making, normally in a traditional way, we have a top-down hierarchy. So we have a customer or a sponsor that really defines what they're gonna do in terms of the final result. In Agile, we collaborate with the team, the user, the customer, the client, so everyone is involved on decision making. In terms of the delivery, we deliver it in a traditional way at the end of the project. We know that we can have some intermediate deliverables, but your final product, it's only when you finish your project. In Agile, you can have functional, usable deliverables in a regular small deliveries. We can have something functional at the end of each iteration. So each increment at the end of an iteration, it's something functional, usable. So this is the biggest difference. So we get value in the project earlier than in traditional way. But what's the best approach? Having said that, we know about the characteristics of traditional project management and agile project management. We know that some projects are more adapted to traditional, some projects are more adapted to agile. How to know what's the best approach? And this is a question that you need to keep in mind when you select the approach, because there are some points, very important points, questions that you need to ask when you start a project. And let me show you this. I put here a quick diagram that shows you some important questions that you need to pay attention when you define the project management approach. So the first thing is, it's if you need really to choose a project management approach or methodology, the first question you need to ask is the project scope and final product well defined? If you really know what is your product, your final product, the scope of our project. If you know clearly, then you go to the second question. If it's not clear, your final product, it's not clear, so then you're gonna go to different questions. So assuming that you know that your final project, the final scope, your final product, it's well defined. So you need to ask if the requirements and solutions are stable and unlikely to change. If you have your scope of your product well defined and the requirement and the solutions are not like to change, then you can use a traditional methodology. Doesn't matter what type of project are you managing. Could be IT. If you know what you're gonna do and if these requirements will not change, then you have a good candidate to a traditional project. If you know the scope, but the requirements are possible change, then you could consider working with agile or hybrid methodology. If your scope is not clear, is not well defined, and the environment are dynamic and is dynamic, and you have a rapid response to change, then you also can consider hybrid or agile. If your scope is not well defined and the project environment are not able to respond quickly the change, then you need to rethink about your project scope, or maybe use a hybrid methodology. So what I call hybrid methodology. Hybrid methodology, in fact, is something that you can adopt, that uses the best of agile and traditional. So hybrid project management is the best of both worlds. Imagine that you go to a restaurant, and if you just arrive in a restaurant and you see, for example, just a plate with a fork and a knife in front of you, maybe you could ask, why I have only these resources to eat? Maybe you're gonna eat a soup. If you order a soup, maybe the plate, fork, and knife, it's not enough to you to eat a soup. When we go to hybrid, it's like you have a full options in terms of tools, resources in front of you to really choose anything that you need in your menu of options. So hybrid is like you have all tools and resources that you need to manage your project. When you go to agile or waterfall, you are just limiting the options that you have to manage your project. In agile and traditional, you have some tools, you have some process, but you are limited to follow these approaches. And when we go a hybrid mode, then we can manage and we can select what are the best tools, what the best approach, actions, models, principles to manage our project. The main benefits of adopting hybrid project management are flexibility. So in flexibility, we can combine a structure of traditional management with the adaptability of agile projects. We can have the best of both worlds. We can have, for example, a planning and a control measures with, at the same time, you can respond to change quickly. We have adaptability where we can adapt or handle changing a circumstance because we are adopting using some agile principles. We have customer satisfaction because we're going to involve customers, users in the project, getting some feedbacks to our process. and we can improve delivery. We can deliver better results with more precise forecast and more value added to the product. This will help you to define if you need maybe a traditional, an agile, or a predictive, an adaptive, or a hybrid approach. And this is important to you when you start a project. But stay tuned, because in my next video, I'm gonna give you more detail about hybrid project management and how to bring this gap between traditional and agile. I'm Rogério Manso, and I help you to start project now.